Welcome to Coast Studio, where impactful stories are amplified. I'm Janet Shay, and today I'm joined by Steve Fordham from Blackrock Industries, a company creating opportunities for Indigenous Australians while leading the way in mining and civil services across regional Australia. Let's dive into their story. Steve, I just want everybody in Australia to know about you because you have such an amazing Australian spirit and your methods are very simple, very clear, very direct.
Common sense.
It's common sense. That's a better way of saying it. Good. So let me start the first question. You started Blackrock Industries in 2016 with very little capital. So tell us what made you take this huge leap.
So at the age of 25, I was in a really rock bottom point in my life. I actually decided to take my life at 25, and I was actually sitting in the shed for about 45 minutes with a rope around my neck, and I just felt alone. I felt like I wasn't part of something, and it just got to the better of me. And my family have got a bit of a history of mental health, so it really got me to that point. And I think the only thing that stopped me jumping that night was literally is that I didn't know who was going to find me the next day. And that's what I was worried about. I was going to worry about it was going to be my spouse, it was going to be a family member, and I didn't want to put them through that. So I decided to gut it up, and I went to work that night. And it was about 3 a.m. I'm watching this Windex bottle bounce around in the truck, and I heard about this. Like, I don't know, God grabbed me by the hands, and I turned around, and at 3 a.m. I'm hearing this a company opening up with one of our mining groups, and I turned around and I said, this is it, this is my chance. So I rang them, and they managed to actually give me a meeting, and we turned around and talked about what they need, and they said, look, we're just starting out, we've only got a few little tenders in that moment. I said, give me any opportunity you can get. So I got home, and I turned around at the spouse at the time. I said, look, I don't know how to tell this, but I spent everything that I've got, and I've decided to open up this business. And she goes, well, at least you got your mind job. I said, no, quit that, because in life we go forward, we don't go back. And I opened up Blackrock Industries, and to be honest, it was awesome, but same thing too. You're going from that big risk and you're taking that chance. And I think when you're at rock bottom, there's only one way to go up, and that's up. And we turned around and we're working with a mining client, and they're telling me about a candidate. They said that there's been in and out of the system, and we turned around, we gave this guy a go, and it was about 4 weeks later, he's walking down the main street, orange work shirt, blue jeans, work boots, glove clip hanging on the side, and I turned around and had a yarn with him, and he's a really, really lovely fella, and he said, when I walk in a shop, I don't get followed anymore. Old people don't hold their handbags, look at me smile. It's the first time I've had purpose in my life. And I got home that night, and I literally said, we got to do more. Like, I got to try and help more of these guys come through. And I found out there's a works release initiative, so I can actually employ guys while incarcerated. And the New South Wales government are doing a really awesome job trying and change the system. Like, it's taking time, but they're working through and doing some really good achievements with that. And so we start employing guys while they're incarcerated. So essentially, we get them the last 6 months or 2 years of their prison sentence. They get to come out and work like anyone else during the day. They get to earn money, get to earn income. And I know a lot of people, they get a bit hesitant towards that, and they go, we should look at prison as a punishment, but to me, it's like anything. You've got to try and rehabilitate. You've got to try and create pathways, because at the end of the day, we need more tax-paying citizens. We need people to come through. We need people to have purpose. And that's what a job is. And essentially, that's how we've created that pathway initiative to help we can support more people. And one thing I did, I hit this goal in my life is I really want to be the change that we see in the world. Like, I'm over, we always talk about our problems and we rely on the government. And especially for Aboriginal people, we look at it and go, our best way to fix the problem is the government's going to do it for us. Government's not going to fix the problem. We've got to do it ourselves. Community gets in, and especially in regional areas, we don't have time to wait. When there's a fire, we got local volunteer firefighters come take the problem out. When there's a flood, it's the SES. But that's what it's all about. It's about regional focus and that Aussie battler mentality, and that's what I want to do. I want to help as many people as possible, and it's that next effect. Like, I've had 4th generation incarceration, and I don't want to see this revolving door of a system that turns around and breaks people, and we put them into the system and go, there you go, that's how we're going to fix it, just lock away, throw away the key. We're hiding our problems. We need to get in front of our problems. We need to create a new pathway, and there is ways of doing it. I think education, skill set, but focusing on a transparent way instead of we're going to put them through a machine that's going to change the mindset of someone. We need to create a real outcome change, and that's where it's at. It's that jobs and skills. It's that opportunity to see someone progress, and it's getting them early to get him in that process. And so my little boy, he's 3, and he turned around the other day and he's got the catalogue out, and he's like, oh, I want to buy this toy, Dad. And I went, well, have you got money? And he goes, no, I don't have money. And I went, all right. So I said, we've got to earn money. So I said, this is what we do to earn money. I said, I need these jobs done today, and that will get you part of the money. And then tomorrow you can do these jobs and it'll get you the money. So he did those jobs. He earned that money. But that's the mindset we've got to go through. I don't have an allowance in our house. We have a wage. So when my kids want money, they've got to earn their wage for the week. And it's trading that mindset early of how do we create that progress to get kids to go through. And that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. you've summarized it beautifully there, but in the next questions I'm going to ask a few more details about just to kind of expand it. So let's go into the social mission. Blackrock is 100% Indigenous owned and focused on employing Indigenous people and former inmates. Why was that mission so important for you?
I think the mentality and from a work perspective is we always said we've got to find the best. But I believe in creating the best, creating that person that have that opportunity, because for years when you interview someone and they've got the top of their field, they're going to go work for the next bloke within a couple of weeks because they're going to be offered more money, more thing. But I think that loyalty and creation is where that offset comes through. And I know in our prison program, the guys are twice as hard working as most, because when people go to work, they feel like they're going to prison. My guys go home to prison. So at the end of the day, having that opportunity to progress and go through it, it's life-changing. But I think that's what we're supposed to do in society. Like we've gotten to a point now, instead of creating more apprenticeships in Australia, we've gone to the point of saying, well, we need to get these engineers, we'll get them from overseas. We need to start looking at our youth. We need to start looking at opportunities to help people progress, because that's what it's about. That's that Aussie dream. We want to give that people the chance to create a pathway for themselves, and I think we can do it. And I think the big thing is government think they're going to fix it. It's going to be business. Business are really good at what they do. They know to create the avenues, and I always say we get a lot of opportunity through what we do from a communal social perspective, because it used to be that Wolf of Wall Street, sell me the pen. It's always that, how do you sell the pen? I can sell you a pen from a large corporate entity, or I can sell you a pen from an Indigenous organisation that's helping create pathways to help people get a new chance in life. People are going to buy that pen every day of the week, and that's what we try to correlate with everything we do. It's about that social need and social outcome.
Let's talk about the balance of business and the impact you're making. So how do you manage the demand of mining and civil work while staying true to your social goals?
I think at the end of the day, most charities are unsustainable. They're relying on handouts and government incentive, and at the moment our country's near $1 trillion in debt. We're at a point where a lot of these buckets are going to be empty, and it's going to be the few getting it, not the really basic organisations that are making real outcomes. Our model is simple. We want to work for what we get, and we want to help people in that opportunity and create those pathways. Like for years, I've seen organisations have been established to help find people a job. Why aren't we investing in the companies that are creating the jobs? Yeah. That's where we need to look at that forefront. And I think that's where that real chance of coming through and creating those real outcomes and real pathways, because I think this country, we're in a large crisis. And if we don't start to try and narrow the ship soon, we're going to have issues. And like even now, our government wants to end coal mining in Australia. But coal mining is the second largest employer of Aboriginal people in the country. Our mining sector is a key player in our industry and our pathway. We're one of the largest industry with female employment. So people think by pulling these industries out of an area and going, we just close them down, who cares? Like I keep hearing a good narrative in the mining sector. I keep getting told we need to end coal mining to give our kids a future. In the largest amount of royalties ever taken out of our region, the New South Wales government closed down maternity services. So made billions and billions of dollars in our region. We can't even have babies in our hospital anymore. We put all this money that goes to the capital, and that's where I always look at what we try to do is we try to break barriers down. We're trying to help because the government can't do their job. So at the end of the day, that's where business is going to step up, and organisations like myself that have had enough. And I'm always been one of them people that go, instead of arguing about the problem, I'm going to go fix the problem. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait for the government to turn up. We're just going to do it ourselves.
I mean, I feel very honoured to be an Australian alongside people like yourself. Like, it's just really amazing seeing someone put their money where their mouth is, literally. In regards to creating great employees, like I like that you focus on creating the best employees, not just finding them, which is very different to, everyone who's gone for a job interview. They're trying to prove that they are the best employee before they're even hired. What does that look like? What does that mean day to day in creating the best employee?
Well, I think it's starting people up from groundwork up, so looking at labouring work and then moving into that operational field. My best operators that I have are dyslexic, and that's been a pathway for a very long time. People that are traditional, there's a barrier, is creating that great pathway, and that's what we try to look for in everything we do, trying to give people a chance, because at the end of the day, you can't just buy loyalty. You got to create it. And after COVID-19, we've created a whole new world of work ethic that's just not there anymore. And I think creating real outcomes, real pathways, and give people a chance, like this is how we've got to fix the problem. And at the end of the day, it's always the government. When it's government gives out money, it's they're giving it out. When there's a problem, it's our problem. Yeah. And I think that's where we've got to start to look at it. And like I think if we created a pathway to create real outcomes for people, we could end the unemployment issues that we've got. We could end the barriers we've got. Like I looked at for years, we give subsidies to all this money to these groups to help find people jobs, we need to start looking at some real outcomes, how we can support the employer. Like, I'll give you a good example. After all the great things that I do in the community, I'm still paying payroll tax. Like, we live in a country where we're going to tax your alcohol because we want you to drink less. We're going to tax your smokes because we want you to smoke less. But we're going to make you pay payroll tax because we want you to employ more. It does not make sense.
Wow. I love the can't buy loyalty, you got to create it.
You do.
Are you thinking of getting into politics, by the way?
Oh, look, believe it or not, over the years, I have been invited by many parties to actually join. My big thing is, at the end of the day, I'm a wild wheel. I don't believe that a party line is the pathway for anyone's success. I believe if we're getting real outcomes, we need real people back into the party line to actually start creating pathways. People that don't follow their party line and go, I'm going to vote on this because it's the best thing for the party. It's got to be for the best thing for the area. Your loyalty is with your electorate. Then it goes to your state, then your federal government, and then your party line. The people need to be put first. We're sick to death, and our political system it's corrupt. Like, if you turn around tomorrow, we have a government that turns around and near bankrupts us. What do? We go, we'll bring the next party in to fix the problem. They'll make it worse, and how do we fix the problem after that? We'll bring the first one in that stuffed it in the first place. And that's the problem, is it's a spinning line of party politics. It's lies. I think what we need to do is every time we go to an election is have a referendum. So we pick 10 of the biggest subjects that are on the subject matter today. And if one of those things is not met, every politician loses 10% of their salary. If 4 of those things aren't met, every politician has to then be moved on. And same thing in the US. I think Warren Buffett looked at an initiative years ago. He said any party that gets the country worse or in debt does not get to run and sit for their seat again. And that's the pathway we need to start creating it. Yeah. And I think if we create real structure and real outcomes, because we've got an old system that it's time for revamp. We live in a new world today, and we go, these are the rules that we've always followed. We need new rules. We need new ways of playing the field. Like a good example, AI. We're about to wipe out so many jobs in this country with artificial intelligence, and no one's talking about it. There's no government going, well, what are we going to look at it? Like, I've spoken to my team. In the next couple of years, we might have 5 admin. It might be down to 3. You look at other sectors, they're looking at sacking 50,000 people because artificial intelligence is taking all these jobs. Where's the future? And we've got no one looking at tomorrow, we're looking at today. What's best for my electoral term, not what's best for the people for the future. And that's where we've got to start focusing. We've got politicians that vote with a party line at every vote. That's wrong. We need politicians that stand up and fight for what's right. We've got politicians within our area in coal-sectored countries. Like, I talked about our maternity problem, but 4 mining communities in our area, which 2 are linked to Muswellbrook, 2 of them don't have the right to have babies in their towns. They lost those while the government makes money off us. We have roads. The government put a $200 million pothole budget in Sydney, when if we put that $200 million invested into regional health for maternity services, we'd fix our problem. And that's the problem, what we live in a country where we need to start looking out for the people, but we're looking for the votes. And that's where the problem is. Government need to worry about stop being re-elected, start working for the people, and the people will remember it and they will back it.
Small government?
100%. I think, I know it's been brought up 1,000 times over, but I think we've got to eliminate the states. I think we go back to a federal and a council-based system. I think if we start investing, like our housing crisis we talk about in this country, I think one thing that we should actually do is the federal government should meet with the councils and go, find me a plot of land for your next 1,000 homes. What we're going to do is we'll give you a grant, we'll get the land set up, we'll give you enough money to develop the first 100. You sell it to your community, and every house you sell, that money has to go into the next housing committee so you can buy your next 1,000 blocks. And say to each council, you've got a target of 100 per year. When you sell your first 100, you have the next 100 ready to go. And then what we do is we allow the systems to go back to how they should be. The problem at the moment, we've got a governments that take money, and I got told all the time, in a sense, in our area, the reason why the royalties shouldn't be spent in our town is because it's got to be put where the most need is. It shouldn't be stay in the area where it's produced. But every premier I've heard so far argue saying we deserve more of the GST because it's in our local area. And I think that's where we've got to start looking at these true paths of where our money's going and where the investment is. 3/4 of everything exported in this state come from regional New South Wales. 3/4 of everything imported goes to Sydney. And that's that pathway where we need to start breaking these molds and these cycles and start creating real outcomes. We're investing in millions of dollars into housing in Sydney to create first home ownership. We should be in, for that same money, they could build 3 or 4 houses in a regional area. We need houses. We don't need locations. This is the target we're going to be. We've got suburbs that are that swollen at the moment. They only can build up. We need to build out. We need to start going into Newcastle. We need to start going into the Hunter Valley. We need to start creating more housing in those regions. Incentivise. Like, I pay payroll tax, and it's one of the worst gut-wrenching taxes that this government has. And it's been around, we brought around the water to subsidise the blow that we had. But if we invested that money back, like my payroll tax and just on my Blackrock Industries was over 15 grand this month. That's jobs that are now being taken away from my business that can be put into my business. So why don't we make a new law that regional New South Wales there's no payroll tax? Incentivise big companies to move out to the regions, create the jobs and investment there. We talk about multiculturalism and assimilation into the public. People that come from overseas that live in a regional area get a true taste of what Australian life is. They get to know the Australian people. You get a better understanding. Putting people in the city and we just keep building in and building up. That's where the problems create. And if we create real, tangible outcomes that we can change people's lives, that's what it's supposed to be like.
Speaking of government support, how has the government been when it comes to supporting your work? Has the help matched the promises?
We've had federal, state support in the past, but it's been one of them ones that's a really hard bucket to try and work with. Like a good example, we've got the NIAA, which is a large funding body for Indigenous issues and stuff that's going forth. But we got away from a model ages ago, which was called the Tailored Assist. Now, the Tailored Assist was set up for individual cases to be able to fix individual problems. So my town might have a completely different issue to the town next door. So the idea is that you can apply for funding, and it might be we need to learn to drive cars so we can create more driver's license, which creates more people job ready to go. The government got rid of that. Now we create these models where we invest $1 billion into a program that is custom made and it's cookie cutter. And that's the problem. We've had our funding taken away. And what I've found in the past is a good example. I met with every faction of government. I've met with the Greens, I've met with One Nation, Labor, I've met with the Liberals. When I met with the Liberals, they wouldn't meet with me. When I met with Labor, they said, this is an abomination. We need to fix this problem now. So then what happens is when the government switch over, what happens? I then meet with the Liberals and go, this is a big problem. We need to get this fixed now. It's wrong. Labor aren't doing this. And then when we meet with Labor, they're going, we can't meet with you. I actually got our first meeting with one of the Liberal MPs, was actually meeting with Malcolm Roberts. Out of all the MPs, I said, look, I'm struggling to get in front of the Liberal Indigenous Affairs Minister. And Malcolm actually walked me up the halls and actually sat with me for 15 minutes and said, you need to hear what this guy's got to say. And that's where I like the fact that we've got people that are looking out for those opportunities that we can try and create pathways, because we do have a problem, and it is at the moment, I say this in a grain of sand, like we had the Bondi issue recently with that terrible incident that happened down there. The first thing the Premier announced is we're going to spend $19 million on an investigation. Why didn't we spend $19 million on the mental health services that were needed in that region? And why do we have to put a dollar figure on stuff? And that's how it is. People will go, because it sounds nice on a paper. We spent $1 billion fixing this problem, but it's not fixed. And that's where we need to look at it. Like programs like ours that focus on people in incarceration save money long term. It's 100% proven that creating job pathways for people that have been in the criminal justice system are the way to break those cycles and how we can help people. And I think across the board on all these programs, we've got to get away from cookie-based initiatives and start going to real outcome-based. I know at the moment one of the biggest barriers I have for young people today is driver's licenses. That's the biggest hold barrier for kids to get employment. So why aren't we turning around investing into our schools and going, we're going to get learn to drive cars for your school. We're going to create a learn to drive program. You're going to get 2 hours a week from year 10 upwards. And we're going to create that pathway initiative. But we've got to come back with some sensible outcomes-based stuff. And I just don't think the government can fix stuff.
I appreciate what you're saying. The government is not the be and end all. The people are. Why, though, wouldn't the government fully back you and support you with the outcome? It's not just lip service. You have proven that what you're doing at Blackrock works. And the outcome is its own testimony. Why wouldn't they, if they're all about less incarceration and get the people out there and rehabilitation, all of that, why wouldn't they support you? 100%.
I think the biggest barrier that comes towards it is we've just got a system that is one of the oldest industries in our country is corrective services. It's one of the first things, it's what the country was originally set up for by the British. Look, don't get me wrong, we've got a really great New South Wales government are kicking some massive goals and everything they're trying to achieve. But I think at the moment I don't think ministers are in charge of the money anymore. I think the bureaucrats are. I've met with every MP, and every time you talk to an MP, they back this 100%. I got bipartisan support 100% on this program. But I find the line always sits with the bureaucrat. And I don't think ministers are in charge of their treasure trove anymore. I don't think it's a system where ministers actually decide where the money goes. I think they're just the short-term face of the problem. But the real problem is at the moment the amount of bureaucracy that we've got within a system, because it's a risk. You're taking on people who are incarcerated. The government feel like they fund something like that, it's a risk. And at the end of the day, I see reward in anything we do. And I think there is problems that come into any faction of program that we create. But I got told by an MP a while ago, we need to be seen tough on crime. So we can't put money into rehabilitation.
No
and I've heard this from several MPs over my time, and it's because this whole system where lock people up, throw away the problem, we need to break the cycle. And I think at the end of the day, it's like when we look at different programs and initiatives, some people get offended when we look at Indigenous employment targets, social targets, but this is how we fix the problem. We're putting it down to the corporate world to fix the problem. And I am seeing a breakdown in those barriers, but my long-term goal is there's no social programs in the future, in the next 20 years. I'm hoping we get to a point where we just do it because it's the right thing to do. We do it because it's a system that we've been built. But Aussies, it takes us time to create new foundations. And this is a foundation that we should be close to everyone's heart, is about creating real outcomes. And I see the benefit into what it is. But I know at the moment there's 1,000 programs that are meeting with the government going, our program can do this, our program can do that. I didn't go to the government and ask for support until we got to 75 participants. I did it myself. I nearly went broke. I was eating off chicken noodles from Audi 5-packs for $1. I got to the point it's overwhelming, and it's hard because I take anyone that comes on and I try and support. They're like my kids. I love what we do, and I love the fact that we can give people a chance. I love the fact that we can give people an opportunity, because it's what we're supposed to do in this country. And all we've done at the moment, we're exporting our problems. We're creating all these barriers. It's people on the ground that are making this country great. I keep getting told we're a lucky country. We are not a lucky country. We're a country backed by people that are trying to make a difference. And that's what this country is about. And I think real based outcomes where we can make that difference, we should.
So you're taking all the risk, all the heavy burden. You've proven, and then you've gone and said, this is what we do. This is the outcome. So you're not just someone who's giving lip service saying, hey, back us. Because we think it's going to make a difference. And I appreciate there's a lot of people approaching them saying, give us funding, but you've proven it.
I think this is the hardest problem is at the moment. It's where the money splash goes. Like, we spend millions of dollars every year with the Indigenous money with the NRL. We put money into the NRL because, and don't get me wrong, the NRL do some really great things, but like, where's the real need initiative? Like, $50,000 spent in an area for a learn to drive car is a life-changing part for a region. And this is the problem is we look at it from a city lens, because there's more city politicians than there is country. So when they look at it and go, there's public transport. Well, we don't have public transport. There's no bus service in our region. To get a taxi, you never get one. So at the end of the day, these kids have got to get to work, and it's a revolving door. We had one young fella, the police booked him near every day, illegally driving a car. And he said, I got a job so I can afford to pay for my fines, but I can't get to work. But I still got to have to drive to work illegally in a car. And I got to the point that his fines are so big that they said, we're going to now have to impound your car. So it's creative, a circulated problem. It's where we've got to create some real initiatives. And I think just common sense, I want to say that it will exist again, but it just doesn't. It doesn't in our government. I don't think you can align those words together and say a common sense approach will prevail, because there's so many hooks and so many leeches into our government system of taking the money and the wealth. We want to be heavily subsidised, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't want a subsidised platform. I always said we've got to be able to do it ourselves, and look, we will continue to do it ourselves. This is what we do. We still make it work. We've got some amazing clients. We've got some amazing industry. That mining is just it's the changing point for what we do.
So the answer is not in big government. The answer is not always in the hands of majority of the time, not in the hands of the politicians, because the ones who solve our issues, the issues that they caused, we're going to end up being on food stamps and controlled. Yeah. Controlled, because hey, you'll get your food stamp if you behave. You'll be able to do this because, as you said, AI is taking over everything. We're not going to have jobs. How are they going to be able to? How are we going to survive if we keep giving control to them? This is going to be a completely socialist country. Yeah. We're going to lose complete control. So the answer is in our hands to support each other. When someone gets up to for that such an amazing initiative and actually does it, and we see the outcome, it's us Australians that have to support. Anyway, let's keep going, because I want to talk about the police and prisons. You work with people coming out of the justice system, and I'm curious to know how cooperative are the police and the prisons towards your program and your goals?
Oh, look, they're 100%. They're
Really?
Yeah. I think this is a big thing that in the system that we look at. A lot of people frown upon the police, and I don't know why. These people lay their lives on the line every day. Our corrective services officers lay their lives on the line every day, and they want real outcomes and change too. And I think this is where we've got to look at the system that we currently got, is how do we create that true outcome pathway. And people want to see change. Like, I want to see the best for anyone. I've always said it, and I said it to my wife, between me and a child, I'll take my life every day to support, like, to anything that I can. If there's a gunman in the building, I'll jump in front of a bullet, because everyone's lives matter. And we've got to look at that as a male mentality. We've lost that right of how do we create that pathway. But we've got a really good system, but it is taking time slow. Bureaucracy is our biggest problem, and red tape, because we're all worried about the telegraph test. What's this going to look like, in the paper tomorrow? And I think by breaking these cycles down and really revamping, one of the ideas I had years ago was, why don't we turn our prisons into TAFE colleges? Anyone does under 3 years does a traineeship. Anyone over 3 years does an apprenticeship. Why don't we create 16,000 tradesmen into our field where it's impossible to get tradies at the moment? Why aren't we looking at a revamp of a barrier? We did this during the job summit. We had a job summit to work out how we're going to fix a jobs problem when we couldn't bring anyone to the country, and we had to focus on a lowest unemployment rate we've ever had. How's the productivity fix? And I know even that recently the government had their productivity summit, and I wasn't sort of invited, but then last minute pulled out because once they shortened the numbers. But we need real outcome change. And like, what I want to see is a new system that we make a common sense approach. Like, I'll give you a good example. I know there's a lot of argument on the change of Australia Day. I think we should change every public holiday to a Sunday, and everyone gets the Monday off as a long weekend. Like, productivity-wise, this year New Year's falls on a Thursday, so no one's turning up to work on a Friday. Everyone's having a 4-day long weekend. Why aren't we looking at new systems that create real outcomes and real productivity changes? Why don't we, like, our country used to be great inventors, great manufacturers. We've lost that right because of high wages and high power. You can only have one or the other working, and at the moment, none of it's working. Tomago's about to lose their jobs. Even in my region, we've got 16 coal mines, and we're terrified. Every time the government makes a decision on our behalf, it's not for us, it's for them to look good in front of the climate agenda.
So with the mining industry changing so fast, how do you make sure that Blackrock stays strong and relevant?
So we are across multiple industries, so we are in the renewable space as well. Don't get me wrong, the hardest thing is long-term longevity, but yeah. I think at the moment as a country, we've got to start looking at where do we draw income from. And a good example with the Libs dropping net zero this week, one of the biggest things is everyone can argue about the goodness that's involved in it, but when you look at it as a cut-costing exercise, it's going to save people money, and going, we've got a system at the moment that is costing people more money. I think that's where it is. I know years ago when you used to get your electricity bills, you used to be able to opt out and go green energy, but you'd pay more for it. So no one actually signed up to it because it's like, yes, it's good for the environment, but I can't afford it. And this is the problem is when we look at most people affected by big government change are low-income earners, middle-class people that are working. And that's where I think we've got to create those long-term longevities, and our power market is a big problem. And as I said, we're actually exporting our carbon problem, because at the moment we go, let's stop cutting trees in Australia where there's rules and regulations. Where are we going to get the timber from? Oh, it'll go from the Amazon, but it's not us. So then we'll kill the orangutans, cut down the forest, and we'll deforest an area that has no rules, no regulations. And it's like, I know it's a hard statement to say, but with the Greens, as much as we don't align with many political lines on a lot of issues, the Greens for years fought for better regulations in our mining industry. So we've created the highest standard of mining that is possibly in the world. And what are we going to do? We're going to shut that industry down now. And do we expect China and other countries to back the same initiatives? No. They don't care. They'll use slavery. They will have destruction across multiple industries. And we've got to stop exporting the problem and start creating the real solutions in our country. Like our precious metals. I think the Job Summit, Twiggy Forrest brought up a good point. He said there's a country, we grow grain in Australia, but we export it overseas to be milled. We sell it for $100 a bag of grain. To turn it into flour is $500. To turn it into bread is $10,000. Wow. So everyone who's making the money in the supply chain are the people that are where we're exporting all this material to. I know years ago they looked at creating steel and actually running a train line from Queensland to WA, and the idea is we'll take coking coal to WA, drop it off into the furnaces there, take iron ore to Queensland, and we'd have two of the largest steel plants actually exporting to the world. We could have done these things, but we didn't worry about the government in the future. We worried about the government today.
Getting closer to the end of this, I want to talk about the bigger picture. In 10 years' time, what role do you see Blackrock playing in Indigenous economic empowerment?
To be honest, I would love to see us, not like a franchise model, but a franchise model and the help. We've had lots of Aboriginal organisations that have reached out that want to actually replicate what we're doing in their states and their territories. And I think that's where the model should actually start to go. To be honest, eventually my goal in life is not to actually have to do any of this because it's been done. I say to people all the time, we want to get to the point where we're losing our jobs in the sector of what we're trying to do because we are creating those true pathways. The hardest thing at the moment is I don't know, I think this is the weirdest time in society that we've ever been in because we've got two sides, people arguing about the problem, going, we need to fix this problem and we don't need to fix this problem, but we really do need to come together and create a true example of what can be done. And I think all I love to see is just common sense prevail in the government. And we're just losing that. Like we can't make that decision because of bureaucracy. I remember even with the nuclear, I was actually in the Senate inquiry with it, and I turned around and we had MPs going, it'd take us too long to legislate. We changed our whole world's economy in 1 year and made more legislation than we've ever done. We can change legislation. If a legislator can't change legislation, there's no point of them being there. And I think that's where our politicians need to start doing is leave the ego at the door. If you're with it just so you can have the brand and the nice perks to become a politician, you're not the right person we need in this country. We need people that want to see the best thing that comes from this country. We need people to start focusing on creating true paths because that's where we are. Like, I'm so devastated of where we're at as a society. Like, even in our mining communities, high incomes. My grandfather used to say, when I was a boy, I used to earn $10 an hour. I'm going to say, when I was a boy, I used to earn $160,000 a year. Oh, but now I earn 60. We're going backwards, and that's the problem is. And I think if we can put common sense into prevail and we focus on new energy, new opportunities, and new venture, we can create a better world. And I think that's where we need to do it. I think more people need to focus on it. And large corporates that even listening today, it's not where the best billboard is anymore. It's not who's got the best marketing campaign. It's that social initiative. I heard a while ago, Glencore spent near a couple $100,000 on an X-ray machine for a hospital for a town. Great initiative what they did. But they also spent $5,000 on yarn for a knitting circle for older ladies. They got more advertisement out of the $5,000 because people talk. And that's your word of mouth is your best showcase of success. And that's what I see in the best way in our future is how do we create those real based outcomes? And that's all we want to see is common sense prevail.
Tell us, who does Blackrock Industries help?
We help anyone across the board that's looking for a job. Like I always say, we do a lot of the jobs that not many people want to do on site. We do the fence and tree planting, cleaning under conveyors. We do all those sort of jobs and opportunities. But I've got a really great team over the years, and our focus has been incarceration with this program. But we've invested now in one of my other businesses. We've bought a mining simulator. So near $1 million investment. We're now creating pathways from mob into haul truck operations and jobs that are going through there. We're looking at our community centre. We're helping people that are from disability to people that have been through domestic violence. And it's such a hard line, and it eats at me, to be honest. Like, I know a lot of the stuff we take on, but the trauma, it lives there because you see it every day. We had a poor mum. We turned up to her house and tile floor. She turned around, she had half her face bashed in, and she turned around, and as we went through, we've seen 3 kids sitting on a blanket on the floor trying to keep warm. And I said, what's going to happen? What's your pathway now? And she goes, I've got to go back to him because I've got no money. I've got no nothing. I don't know what to do. So what do? We furnished her house. We put some money in. We got her some food. We got her some clothes. We got the kids into school. And that's what we need to do. We've got to stop this whole process where there's just a problem and it's just how it is. And even I'll give you another thing that really teases me off is we look at our maternity services. Every politician I've talked about, the drop in maternity services in regional areas, the first thing they say, it's happening everywhere. Well, that's not a good enough excuse. Like, we need to fix this problem. So I'm actually in the process at the moment of trying to collect over 1,000 high-vis shirts to take to Parliament so our miners can actually stand up and say, we want to have our babies in our town. Like, I live in a town average population of 37. And as a Conservative, I believe the greatest thing in this country we can do is have kids. I know at the moment when I was in that suicidal part of my life, the greatest moment of my life, more than business and anything, is when I get home and have those kids dancing around the door excited that dad's home. And that's what I want to see, and every person should have that opportunity. And I think we can create real outcomes, we can create real pathways, but we've got to take that common sense approach and start letting it prevail.
This is so beneficial to our community. This is so beneficial to our morale. This makes us feel more powerful as citizens of a community to take a hold of these things and say we are actively changing our own community. You don't change your community by having even more stricter punishments. I do believe in strict punishments, like, repercussions and legal things if you're doing really evil things. Absolutely. But I'm saying is when we get together as a community and help each other when we have mental health issues, empowering each other, we change the trajectory of our history. Now, Steve, how can we help you? How can we support you?
I think the biggest thing is, we live in a time now where we've got no time, and we live in a society where we can do more. I think people outreaching to try and help, even in their local areas, to try and help their own local charities. I love what we do, and I love the fact that I can actually help people day in, day out, and we can take in anything. And even when Jesus walked the earth, one of the biggest things he didn't go looking after for the rich. He looked after the people that no one wanted to look after, and that's where our society is. We are as strong as our weakest link. And if we can create that real outcomes and real pathways, and people think by going to church on a Sunday is going to absolute them for the future to pathway. It's not about that. It's living as in your faith every day of the week to help support people, because that's what we need to do. We need to try to break these lines. We need to give people that a hand up, not a hand out. And that's where I think that initiative of how do we do more. And I love this country. I love every part of it. I love every person that lives in this nation. I'll help anyone because it's what we're supposed to do. It is literally just how we get by, because life is hard, and everyone's going through their own demons. They've got their own drama that's gone in their life, and you can't overwhelm and say, well, I'm just going to ignore your problems because my problems are bigger. My problem I had with my mental health, I'm here today because I get to actually help people. That's what changed my life, and that's why every day by me trying to do more. I even say, even if it's just letting a bloke in as he's pulling out with his ute and when you're in traffic, or letting the simple things like that dad might get that extra 5 minutes with his kids today. And so that changing point of life, and people think we've got to do big things to change. It's the little things. Yeah. And in a city life, it's hard. I moved to Sydney for a year while I was building up my business in that area. And the one thing I've worked out, in the most highest populated city in our country, they're the most loneliest.
Yep.
They live with homeless people on the street and can overwalk past someone every day. I remember my first week there, I got in trouble. Someone broke down on the road, and I actually pulled up in front of them, got my tow strap out on the middle of the expressway, went to tow them off to safety, and I got in big trouble. And they said, you can't do that. And I went, why? And they went, well, it's dangerous. And I went, no, I do this all the time. This is what we do. But we've got to go out and try and do more, because this country is great, but it's not going to be for long if we don't start doing more.
Yeah. Because that's what good people do. Whatever your belief system or faith, that's what good people do. We take care of each other, our families, our neighbours. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Steve Fordham. I'm really honoured to get to know you. I'm honoured and privileged to be able to have a chat with you. And I really hope that people watching are as moved as I am. I hope you realize how much I held it in. Tears are just trying to come out, but I'm trying not to cry. But I'm really proud of you, and I thank you and your wife and your family for everything you do. And what a wonderful example you are.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to this amazing episode from Coast Studio, where impactful stories are amplified. Follow Coast Studio channel for more stories that inspire and create change. And if you'd like to support Steve's work or learn more, head to the Blackrock Industries website. The link's on your screen. I'm Janet Shay. Thank you for watching. See you next time.